Welcome to the latest event in this great Royal Television Society strand, which is Anatomy of a Hit. 16 years after the original Blue Planet was shown on the BBC, the 7-part series, narrated by Sir David Attenborough, has been sold to more than 30 countries. It attracted more viewers in the UK than any other programme last year. So, James, just a bright idea, or was somebody saying to you, you've got to come up with the next big one?
There were so many new stories to be told underwater, and that's because of the new technologies, the new advancements in technology, and also the incredible new science that has been going on. A lot of science has been going on in the oceans.
So where do you then start? You've got the whole world. How do you start planning something like that?
We wanted each episode to feel very different. You wouldn't want to feel like you were coming back to the same episode each time, and different habitats allow you to do that. And then really it's about forming the connections with the scientific community, because ultimately that's where these new stories are going to come from. The truth is, a lot of those stories come to you in the second and third years of the production, when you've really won people's trust and confidence. And
Sarah is an assistant producer. What is your role?
I think I have probably the most fun and satisfying part, in that I get to go and direct on location. I get to be on the boats, working with the scientists, diving with the cameramen, and seeing everything, all the behaviour firsthand, and then going through all the rushes on the boat, making sure we're getting enough of the footage that I can come back to Mark and know that we can make a whole story, a whole sequence out of it.
And what does directing involve? I mean, you don't say to the fish, can you just do that again, please? I mean, how does it work?
You can try, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It depends on the type of shoot. For example, with some of the more technical filming equipment, you plan shots, like moving through the kelp and that sort of thing. If it's whales that are just passing past, then we decide if we're going to go in with a lens that's going to get close-ups, or if we're going to be going in with a lens to get wide shots, and that will be based on what footage we've already got that I've reviewed the night before.
We have a core team of 25 people dedicated to the project over 4 years, and James has sort of the grand view, and then I come in and do the detail. That process of just finding those stories can take up to a year, and the constant feedback and refinement of storylines and narrative arcs, I'll be brainstorming with the producers and their teams, and then pitching them to James. And then when it gets into the filming efforts, which can take over, which kind of consumes around 2.5 years of the timeline, it's constant reviews of storyboards, so that we can be as focused as possible. It's a constant sort of refinement as you're on location. Do we stay longer? Do we pull the plug? Is it going well? What can we do to improve it? Do we go back next year? That takes sort of 2.5 years of your life, and then there's a whole year putting these films together to make 7 hours of television. And James comes in towards the end and goes, "You've got to be kidding me. What's this?" And it's again, trying to always raise the bar and make sure that the stories are compelling and engaging. The secret in natural history filmmaking is you actually want to have a minimal commentary and let the visuals and the music tell the story and set the emotional tone. And then just a little bit of guidance and poetry from Sir David.
So how important was technology? I mean, we've said it was important, but I mean, lots and lots of different technologies. This was crucial to why this series worked.
No, that's right. And so some of the technologies, off-the-shelf technologies, like the rebreathers we were talking about earlier, other bits of kit, we had to build ourselves. So one of our real ambitions was, could we ever follow a sperm whale into the abyss? Could we go on that ride? One of our producers literally set about designing this and rebuilt a tiny camera with these suction cups that could be attached to the back of a sperm whale, and for the first time dive with it.
And was there any moment when you thought, no, this really has hit home, and we're actually, as well as providing a fantastic series, something is going to live on as a result of this? And so on.
There were a lot of individuals and NGOs and campaigners who had been talking about plastics, but TV does that thing of turning a hard spotlight on a subject and catalysing that conversation. And as documentary makers, as you might imagine, it's just the most rewarding thing to feel that something you've played a part in highlighting is now such a big conversation.
What are some of those key learnings that you'll take for the 2030 plus edition of Blue Planet?
The world feels like it's getting a smaller place. Every glimpse we have of something new feels very, very precious. and the footprint of humanity feels very evident everywhere we go now.
What we set out to do was to demonstrate how sophisticated and complex life is in the ocean. When you start thinking of these creatures as sophisticated beings, it changes your relationship with them. And I think more and more as science delves into it and reveals these secrets, we're going to be more in awe of how complex life really is and how important it is to us that it remains healthy.
We now really can't ignore our impact on our planet, and I think it's fantastic as TV is able to develop its style to show what really is happening in nature now.
A huge round of applause, please. Thank you. Yeah.